Welcome, welcome. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
Well, I'm going to have you use some personal visualization. I just have the text in front of me this morning, so perhaps at another time we'll take a look at some pictures. We'll see. But we have them on previous lessons about the construction of the Mishkan. So Vayasam. So we're talking right now about this last and 10th stage of actually setting up the Mishkan, having the plans and the instructions and the fabrication and the accounts of how much went in, how the materials, etc. We finally have the actual construction. And we notice that it says Moses did this and Moses did that. And we had this yesterday, we had the refrain, Ka'asher tziva Hashem et Moshe, just as God had commanded Moses. So this reminds me of a story I read many, 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 many years ago about a woman, an older woman, who was coming to the end of Rosh Hashanah services, and she said this prayer. She said, God, she said, I'm so grateful to you for everything that you've provided me. She says, but what can I wish you at this new year? What can I? You have everything. You own everything. You have everything. What can I wish you? And she said, I just thought of it. Nachas from your children. That's what I wish, God. Kasher tziva Hashem et Moshe. Vayasem et masach hapetach lamishkan. He placed the curtain at the entrance of the Mishkan. Ve'et mizbach ha'olah, and the altar for the offering, the burnt offerings. Some he placed Petach Mishkan Ohel Moed. He placed at the entrance of the Mishkan, of the tent of meeting, right? That's the actual shrine part. Vaya'al alav et ha'olah, and he offered up on it the burnt offering, ve'et hamincha, and the meal offering, ka'asher tziva Hashem et Moshe, right? Just as God had commanded us. This is beautiful step-by-step process of doing the will of the Creator. So, Vayal alav, right? He offered up on it. Af bayom hashmini lamiluim. He says, even on the 8th day of the miluim are those days, right, of induction of the Mishkan, the beginning of this process of what the Mishkan was supposed to accomplish, right? So they had these 8 days of miluim, right, of this this inauguration, this inaugural process. Shehu Yom Hakamat HaMishkan, that was the day of the setting up of the Mishkan. Shimesh Moshe. The point about this is that Moses served as the priest, as the high priest. V'hikriv korbanot tzibur, and he offered up the public sacrifices. Chutz me'otan shenitztaveh Aaron bo bayom, with except for those that Aaron, who of course was going to become the high priest, that Aaron was commanded to perform on that day, on that 8th day. Shne'emar, as it states in Leviticus chapter 9, Karav el hamizbeach begomer, right? So I think this is actually Krav el hamizbeach, draw near to the altar. I'm going to assume that it's in the imperative. Et ha'olah. So what olah, what burnt offering are we talking about? Olat hatamid. We're talking about the perpetual offering. This is the offering that was commanded to be brought of a lamb in the morning and a lamb in the evening. Corresponds to our shacharit and our mincha services. And this lamb was to be brought no matter what, every single day. Shabbos, Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, this lamb in the morning and in the evening. Ve'et hamincha, and the meal offering, minchat nesachim. So he says this meal offering was the libations, shel tamid, that accompanied the tamid sacrifice, this offering of the lamb in the morning and the evening. Kemoshe, as it states in Exodus chapter 29, the isaron solet, 1/10 of, I believe, an ephah of fine flour, balul b'shemen, mixed up with oil, right? This olive oil. Vayasem et hakior, he placed the laver bein ohel moed uvein hamizbeach, between the tent of meeting and the altar. Vayiten shama mayim lerochza, and he put water in it for washing. Make sure I got okay. V'rachatzu mimenu mi Moshe v'Aaron vanav. Moses, Aaron, and his sons washed themselves from it. Et yidehem, that is to say, their hands, ve'et raglehem, their hands and their feet. So, hands, remember, are a metaphor for control and what you do, right? What you do and what you control. And to wash your hands is, of course, an act. The washing is an act of dedication. It's saying, I'm going to be using my hands for this specific purpose. And feet represent where you go. So what you do and where you go, two very, very basic concepts, right? So feet and washing your feet. Because, of course, the offering up of these sacrifices involve going from one place to another place, back to another place, etc. So where you go and what you do, two great concepts to meditate on. So Rachatzu mimenu Moshe v'Aaron v'anav, Moses, Aaron, and his sons washed. Yom Shmini Lemiluim. This happened on the 8th day. Okay. I think he's simply making a comment that Yom Shmini Lemiluim, that on the 8th day of these Miluim, Hushvu Kulam Lakuhuna, they all were on the same level of being Kohanim. The Targumo, right, and the Aramaic translation of this Rachatzu, right, is Vayaktishun Mimene. So you can see the word Kadosh, right, from the word that Onkelos is translating, but also interpreting, right? They sanctified from it. Bo Bayom, that on that very day, Kidesh Moshe Imahem, right? On that day, Moses sanctified himself with them. He sanctified alongside of them, because Moses he was not a Kohen, he was a Levi. But in order to inaugurate the Mishkan, he took on the role of a Kohen. Before Am Elohim Eid, in their entering the tent of meeting, this is that they wash their hands and their feet, right? That was very important. Uvekorvatam el hamizbeach irchatzu. Okay, so in a way, this is sort of an elliptical statement. It's saying it's giving an explanation as to why they wash their hands and their feet. It feels like it's a little bit out of the regular context of what we're reading, right? So it's saying when they come, so new idea, right? New statement, parenthetically, when they enter the tent of meeting, and when they draw near to the altar, they shall wash themselves. So, end of parentheses. And of course, the refrain, Kasher Tziva Hashem et Moshe, just as God had instructed Moses or commanded Moses. Okay. Okay, so Rashi goes into a little bit of dramatic, a grammatical idea, uve korvatam, kamo uve karvam, right? So that's it. It's as if he says, and when they draw no close, kishe yakrivu, that is when they offer up sacrifices. Let me just double check if this continues. In case the Rashi, no, it does not. Okay, so this is very good. Let's continue. Vayakim et hechatzer. He set up the courtyard, saviv la mishkan, around the mishkan, v'la mizbech, and around the altar. Vayiten et masach, and he placed the screen, shar hachatzer, of the gate of the courtyard. Vaychal Moshe et hamalacha, and Moses completed the work, the labor. Vayachas he'anan et ohel moed, the cloud covered the tent of meeting. Uchvod Hashem, and the glory of Hashem, that is the divine presence, right, in all its glory. Malay filled et hamishkan, filled the mishkan, the tabernacle. V'lo yachol Moshe, Moses was not able lavo el ohel moed, into the tent of meeting. Why? Ki shachan alav alan, because this cloud rested upon it. Uchvod Hashem, and the glory of God, the presence of God, malay et hamishkan, it filled the tabernacle. This glorious moment, when all that preparation, all that labor, all that skill, right, all that design, engineering, etc., accomplished what it needed to accomplish. Moses was not able to enter the tent of meeting. So this is Torah Kohanim, right? The Sifra in Parsha Vayikra. The Sifra is this halachic midrash on the book of Leviticus. Ukatuv echad omer, but another scriptural statement says, Uvavo Moshe el ohel moed. It says, and when Moses came into the tent of meeting. So that's interesting, right? Seems to contradict. Ba hakatuv hashlishi. So we have a third verse, v'hichriya beinehem, and what it does is it explains, it harmonizes, it compromises the two of them, and it creates a compromise understanding. Ki shachan alav hanan. It says because the cloud was resting on it. Emor, so say, me'ata, from now, calls man shahaya alav anam, that just as long as the cloud was on it, lo haya yachol lavo, right? He wasn't able to enter it. Istaleka anan, but when the cloud was removed, nichnas, that's when Moses would go in, umedaber imo, and speak to God. So the cloud rested, but it wasn't always there. Sometimes the cloud lifted and Moses could go in and communicate with God. Uve ha'alot hanam, here we go, right? Uve ha'alot ha'anan me'al ha'mishkan, and when the cloud rose up from above the Mishkan, the tabernacle, Yisuv v'nei Israel, at that point the children of Israel would journey b'chol maseihem, on all their journeys. Okay. Just double checking, right? Ve'im lo ya'eleh ha'anan, but if the cloud would not rise up, right? Ve'lo yis'u, they would not travel, they would not journey ad yom he'aloto, until that day when it would go up. Ki anan Hashem ala mishkan yomam, because the cloud of Hashem, of God, was on the tabernacle, yomam, during the day. Ve'esh, and fire, tiel laila bo, and fire would be within it at night. Le'enei kol Beit Yisrael, in the sight of all the house of Israel, b'chol maseihem, on all their journeys. Chazak, chazak, beneath chazak. Now, we haven't, of course, let's make sure we do that last Rashi, right? Le'enei kol Beit Yisrael, b'chol maseihem, in the sight of all the house of Israel, on all their journeys. B'chol masa shehayu nosim, on all the journeys that they would take. Haya ha'anan shochem b'makom asher yechanu sham. The cloud would rest in the place where they were to encamp. Makom Chaniatan, the place of their encampment, Afu Karui Masa. That was also called a journey. V'chein, and it says in Bereshit, in Genesis chapter 13, Vayelech lemasa'av. It says he went on his journeys, which includes those places where Abraham was encamping. V'chein, and likewise, Bamidbar, in Numbers chapter 33, Ele Masai, it says these are the journeys. So what it's talking about is not only the movement, but the actual areas where they encamp, because that's what follows this particular statement, this introduction, Ele Masai. Lefi, why? Shemimakom hachaniya, because from the place of their encampment, chazru v'nasu, I think what it means is they would sort of gather their belongings. Literally, it means they returned v'nasu, and then they would actually journey. L'chach nikru'u kulam masaot, and for this reason, all these places are called masaot, are called journeys.
So
Yes, go ahead.
yeah, so I know we've done the later the later parts of this. So the question I had was is this is the same cloud that follows them around and ultimately disappears, in later chapters, right?
Right,
So my
right.
question was, and maybe I missed it, is this the origin of that cloud? Is this the first time that the
No, no, it's a good question, and it's a question I can answer. No, because even before the Mishkan, remember when they came out of Egypt and they'd crossed, uh, they, I think even before they crossed the Red Sea, they had the cloud at night. And because remember, the cloud and the fire came and separated the Egyptians from the Israelites
Mm,
at the time of the crossing of the Red Sea. So it was there, this presence of the divine was there from the moment they left Egypt, basically. It led them on their journey. Yeah, go ahead.
okay. No, that's it. Thank you. I just couldn't remember. Okay,
It's
great.
okay, believe me. If you say you can't remember, welcome to my world. So,
Of
okay,
course.
right. Any other comments for the record? Okay, very good.